For those of you, I got a lot of people say, what day is it? It's Friday, April 11th. Okay. We've got a lot to cover today. Brenden, best way for people to watch us, obviously, is to subscribe, take a picture with the QR code of the QR code.
If you're watching us right now,
you're watching us.
just go ahead and like and follow. So you've already found us, Rob.
There you go.
So that's how that works.
There you
go. If you'd like to follow us on another platform, go ahead and click the QR code. You'll go to Twitter or X, and you can follow us there. Or go to YouTube. This is the subscribe link. You can go right here, click on that QR code, and you will be able to follow us, get notifications, and join along. And if you're watching on some other platform we don't know about, well, share that in the chat and let us know. So
yeah,
we're only in 400 places.
That's right. And look, there's a lot to cover today. Brenden, I'm sure you saw the story breaking yesterday afternoon on Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. I'm going to tell you one thing. Rocky Top Tailgate, Mark Ham sent me those texts. His head was about to explode. He was down in South Texas turkey hunting, and then he sees that, and he goes, how much more does this guy need? Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, Rob Browne, Brenden, we're going to bounce the ball around today. A little roundtable action, lot to cover. I can tell you this, spring practice is underway. We're transitioning from basketball into football. I don't think after this season you're ever going to see as long of a drought between basketball talk as you may have seen in the past, because obviously the Gators won it all Monday night, and the more you talk and think about this Final Four, the way they did it, it's an incredible story, and it's the stuff of which fans just cannot get enough. So again, share and like, subscribe. We'll cover it all today. Doug Dean should check in just a minute. Frank on the way out to Hot Springs to watch his horse run. We got the Masters underway. Frank, a lot to talk about. And Jacques Doucet and I were texting last night down in Baton Rouge. They've been able to go to a few practices. Rodney Orr got to go to one Tuesday morning in Tuscaloosa. Pretty much everything is kept away. I think the more fans can read about what actually is going on in practice, the more they're going to talk about football and not all the other distractions going on around it. Want to get started, and Doug will be here in a minute, but LSU, these are good problems to have. All Brian Kelly's doing is winning 10 games a year, but LSU fans in this millennium, 3 different coaches. I mean, let's think about it. Nick Saban, Lester Miles. Let me repeat that. Lester Miles won a national championship in spite of doing everything he could to botch it. And then Ed Orgeron, the scholar himself, won it. Brian Kelly has a 10-year deal worth $90+ million. You can't get rid of the guy. He's in the family now. Yeah.
He ain't gonna
what do you think's going to happen with him?
Well, keep in mind, he came to LSU out of all those 4 coaches that you mentioned. Brian Kelly had the biggest bona fides. Ed Orgeron, the only job Ed Orgeron was going to get was the LSU job. He couldn't have gotten any other job in the country at the time. Les Miles, again, had to step in after Nick Saban, took Wayne Huizinga's playing down to Miami. Actually, I think Les Miles did a great job. He was I will tell you, the guy had players that was going to you never forget your first. Nick Saban, I'm sure, in 3 more years, he'll be feted the floor of Tiger Stadium. His 2003 national championship team on their 25th anniversary. He's going in this year to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. So the ice is softening, ice is breaking, it's melting. And Brian Kelly is the 4th in that lineage. And there's just, look, LSU has too much talent not to step up and take a crack at the national championship. And look, he did really great in his first year, making it to the SEC championship game. Again, way outmatched and outclassed by Georgia in that game. But it's something that, LSU fans are not going to put up with not at least playing and competing to get to Atlanta, and that's the bar. I mean, when you have the greatest the college football season of all time, and it's only 5 years in the rearview mirror, you are going to have great expectations. So Brian Kelly understands this. He's not stupid. He gets this. And look, this is a tough year for him. He's on the hot seat. And you've got to play well. You can't get blown out in games like we were embarrassed against Alabama. That cannot happen. And so he knows what's at play. Look, Alabama's having their spring game tomorrow. I was just driving through Alabama and heard about the A game that's going to be played. I believe it's tomorrow. Yeah. So I mean, we are in full swing. And what's interesting, Rob, is we haven't talked really much spring football on the roundtables the last 4 or 5 roundtables because we were so consumed with the incredible SEC basketball season and then in the tourney run. We haven't even talked about SEC baseball, where we have 7 or 8 teams in the top 20. LSU at number 3 is going to play your Tigers at Plainsman Park. The 11th ranked Auburn Tigers this weekend for a 3-game series. We just came off of sweeping Oklahoma. So there is so much to talk about where we've been focused on basketball, rightfully so. But you've got spring football and you've got college baseball that is in full swing. We have lots to talk about.
We do, and I want to Doug Dean's on now from Birmingham. Want to get right to it. Story yesterday afternoon about Nico Iamaleava up at Tennessee wanting to renegotiate his NIL deal. He has a deal that if he stays all 4 years, allegedly $8 million, and now he's wanting to renegotiate it. And Mark Ham, Rocky Top Tennessee tailgate reporter, was funny. He said, "What, to a lower amount?" I mean, really. If you look at his numbers, he failed to reach 250 yards passing in 10 of his 13 games last year. He had 19 total touchdowns. I think in SEC games, he averaged around 169 yards passing and 207 if you count the non-conference games. We all know it only matters at that point. And when you're paying a guy like that, you better do it in the SEC. I think he's an example, Exhibit A. I've been saying this, of everybody looks at an $8 million alleged NIL deal and thinks, oh, he's automatically great. No, he's not. He's not even ranked among the top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC. You can talk about his potential, but you know what potential means? You ain't done a damn thing yet, or you hadn't done nearly as much as we think you can. Doug Dean, not that anyone wouldn't want to have Nico on their roster, but were you underwhelmed like I was with him last year?
Well, yeah. And, I thought that the hot topic this morning with it Masters weekend was going to be the etiquette of one Jose Luis Ballester at Rays Creek.
Man,
it reminds
the room,
me,
huh?
That's the Southwest Airlines "Want to Get Away" commercial.
That's right.
Phil,
What the hell was he thinking?
Don't make me be explicit. That he had Mother Nature called, and he was on a golf course, and the blown, the self-inflicted wound is that anybody at the Masters on an opening round could think that there's privacy. There's cameras everywhere.
I mean, you can't
I had a friend of mine call me.
Rob, you can't even do that on a muni course. How were you doing that at freaking Augusta National? I don't know if the guy's even going to be let into the locker room today. If I was the man at Augusta National, that son of a bitch would be on the outside looking in this morning. He would be disinvited.
Because we're talking about, I'll take a little shot at the snooty Masters officials. It's an unbelievable venue, second to none. All the pros will tell you that. But they don't even like you calling it the back nine. It's the second nine. Because back nine, then somebody will say backside, and that will lead to boorish commentary. So, man, I can't believe that he just, where was his caddy, for God's sake? Tell him, what do you think? What are you thinking?
All right, let's bring in Brenden, who is a caddy for 15 years at Castle Pines in Colorado. Brenden, did you ever take anybody out, whether they're a famous person or Joe Sixpack, and that happened?
Sorry, I'm not paying attention to you, Rob. What did you ask me? I'm producing the show. What did you ask me?
But they're talking about what happened at the Masters with the guy going out there and taking a leak
in Ray's Creek.
I would say, guys, this is what happens every day on a golf course. Exactly. And I would say, if
but
you
not every golf course is holding the Masters.
No, but I'm going to tell you right now, peeing outside at a golf course is about normal as it gets. And I've seen it. And I have taken Larry Mize. I have taken. I have a myriad of guys I've carried a bag for, and I have seen from caddy to player, all sorts of things happen from green to tee. From green to tee, you go to the bathroom, you have a beer, you smoke a cigarette. All these things happen. The vices come out from green to tee. That's what we always joke about.
Masters frown. It'll be interesting to see, do they do anything with him? I didn't mean to detour your topic, Rob, but back to the NIL and the
Isn't it more that he got caught? Isn't it more of like
probably? Yeah,
I think that's that. I know a lot of that membership because they were crossovers. Castle Pines has mimicked Augusta National from the caddy outfits, from the way it's set up, and the whole thing. It's a Nicklaus course. And a lot of these members were members at Augusta National because Jack Vickers God bless Jack Vickers, rest his soul. He's passed, but he's one of the icons, and he is a Augusta National guy. So, anyways, I know that membership, and it's just, I'm sure they're getting a hard time, but it's like, hey man, you got to go behind that tree over there. You got to go over there. So.
And we all know that. It's the Masters. Doug,
back to your actual topic, Nico, where we are now is imagine the NFL in which a player who fans were calling on, coaches were considering benching a quarterback in the NFL, and the season ends. And he says, I need to renegotiate my contract. I'm worth millions more than this. Based on what? So we had the myth, I'm going to call it the myth of amateurism in college football was penetrated several years ago with Urbana and subsequent rulings. And now, we're in this interim period of insanity in which there's going to have to be some coaches that step up and say, listen, we want you on our team, but we're not going to surrender. We're not going to pay you based on your high school film. We're not going to pay you based on, a mediocre first season at QB or whatever position. And I think these coaches are scared to do that because you used to have a 3-deep quarterback room. Yeah. And now whoever's second or third string is in the portal and they're gone.
Yeah.
And you start to worry about, look what happened to Georgia last year. And I don't know if that kid that played in the playoff game will prove me wrong, but I just thought he was pedestrian. May have a ceiling that's higher than I realized, but these coaches making millions of dollars, they need a depth chart, and it's razor thin because of this portal activity.
Yeah, and I think when Carson Beck left and went to Miami, I think behind the scenes there probably was some relief. I mean, when he went out, and we all know people that have ridiculous amounts of money. I don't know any of them that buy Lamborghinis or Rolls Royces. I mean, not the old money that I know and hard work, but they just don't do it. And he goes and spends $285,000. You know what that could have been? What if he'd have bought 100 futures contracts Wednesday morning in the market at $45? By the end of the day, they were worth $3,500 a piece. Do stuff like that. A Lamborghini, which by the way was stolen when he got to Miami. But I think Gunnar Stockton, the story on him is he drives a 20-year-old truck with roll-down windows. We don't know about his play yet. He's from North Georgia, Frank, Rayburn County. That's where they filmed Deliverance. He's a tough kid. But we don't know what did he do against Notre Dame. It didn't show out.
You've got, we all like Livy Dunn. Doesn't she go by Olivia?
From New Jersey. Yeah.
She's a brand. She's one of the few it actually is name, image, and likeness. And
correct.
We can be cynical that the name, image, and likeness has to do with her beauty. And I'm not against beauty. Are you? Duff?
No, absolutely not.
I'm for it.
No.
But she was one of those testifying to Judge Wilkin in California on the day of the
She
final floor. Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's
and
big.
she appeared via Zoom, and she told Judge Wilkin that her estimate for NIL back pay, if you studied the House settlement, which is still in play, I don't think the judge made a final ruling on it.
No.
But Livy said that it didn't come close to matching her actual earnings, and I think that's accurate. But my goodness, when you get to a settlement, both attorneys are involved, and they reach agreement. A judge has to bless it. But I think the other day, the free market will figure all this out. Well, that's all true, but my God Almighty, if the free market takes 10 or 15 years to straighten it out, a hell of a lot of damage can get done, and people will step away from being interested in football. I think there may be, I've talked about this, there may be programs, the mid majors, and some that aren't in the power 3 or 4 conferences, really 2 conferences, if we're honest, that they may say, look, we have been cut out of the deal running a football program because I can't sell season ticket packages to fans when they know we have no chance of making a 12-team playoff.
Great point. And I tell you, the original NIL.
Frank, you're muted.
Frank, you're muted. But Frank, we got you. But let me say, the original NIL, is that what we call it when politicians enrich themselves with their name, image, and likeness? I mean, how far back can you go? Frank, Livy Dunn going out there and testifying. The judge has not made a final ruling. I think she's got questions about what I've been told. John Hartwell said on the show yesterday, the athletic director at ULM. He's on a lot of those national committees. I think there were questions about the scholarships going up to 105 and all. But he did tell us yesterday that Rich Rodriguez, who's back coaching at West Virginia, had to tell 21 players on the roster, thank you for your services, but we don't need you anymore. I hate that. I don't like that. That's not what college sports are all about. And nobody, I just got a text, and I'm not going to say the school, from a friend of mine, and the president of this school in the SEC, which is west of the Mississippi River, was on a 2.5-hour conference call yesterday. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, Frank.
We've lost audio on Frank.
We have Frank. We may have lost audio, but
reboot, Duff.
But Doug, you see where I'm going there. There's a lot that's going to happen. And I say the free market, and we don't always like what the free market comes up with.
That's all we've got right now.
That's all we got. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I wish when matters like this come up that we had a SCOTUS that. And they didn't do anything wrong. They operated within the scope of what a Supreme Court is supposed to do, which is read the law, the Constitution, and make a ruling. But what it set in motion, it stomped the accelerator to the floorboard on radical change that was at such a pace that great thinkers like Greg Sankey and others didn't have enough time to organize this. And what would have helped is if they could have gotten, like Major League Baseball, if I've got it right, an exemption from antitrust to bring sanity to this. If the main issue was players wanting their fair share of revenue in college football and TV, that's reasonable. That's more than reasonable. Then you get into the debate about proportion and how to do valuations. And the absurdity of what Supreme Court ruled was it was limited in scope to name, image, and likeness. And because of the aggressive competition in football and basketball, especially in college sports, you had it quickly got subverted to pay for play, Rob.
Yeah. Well, I've just put a request out to Sidelines barrister in residence, Jack Turner, who really he's pretty much of an expert on antitrust law. And I asked him if he could come on for 5 or 10 minutes, spur of the moment, but I'd like to get him to expand on it because Jack is a Millsaps grad, Hugo Black College of Law grad at Alabama. But I tell you what, Brenden has been so far ahead in GatorBaitMedia.com on the Jaden Rashada story at Florida. That one won't go away. I wonder, and I just hope that you just hit on something, Frank. And I mean, Doug, and I have not thought about it as much, but athletic directors saying, how do I sell season ticket packages to my fans when they know we're walking the green mile and at best we're going to crack 500? Wow. And Ellis Johnson will be on
People
the
that
show.
just like a nice warm September Saturday hanging out and tailgating. I just think, I mean, we were even before all of this, there was a blame the millennials and Gen Zs. We blame them for everything else. There was a precipitous drop off in, season ticket. You had even places like Bryant Denny they would tell you, and if it happens in Tuscaloosa, goodness, the rest of us have problems. To have 100,000 seat stadium, it was unusual, except for the really big games, to pack it full. So they're repurposing most of the stadiums in the SEC. Have done or are planning to repurpose and go from 100,000 or whatever capacity is to having more of these sky boxes, which there is apparently a market for with the big money boosters and fans.
Okay,
and
Doug,
it's a mess.
And Doug, you're hitting on it, and Jack's going to join us in just a moment. I want to go back to this. We talked about how good it was in the old days, and I think when we talk about the 70s, the 60s, and the 70s, the crowds were not that big in college football. I mean, the Bryant Denny held 62,000. And if it wasn't, as you talked so much about, Pat Dye pushing the game to Auburn December 2nd, 1989, they'd still be playing their big games in Inslee. And that's just the truth. So you think about, if you're an athletic director right now, you're a president at an SEC school, which we focus myopically on, it's going to be a tough sell if you don't have the NIL. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'll predict it. They're going to be NIL collectives. They're going to just fold up their, tent and they're done. Because if the house settlement goes the way we think it might, then, okay, why do we, but then there's going to be schools in the SEC, I would imagine Florida and Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and Tennessee and Ole Miss are going to say, oh, we'll keep that NIL collective, by God. But any transaction over $600, there's going to have to be full transparency.
Yeah, come back, Duff. We want to hear your opinion. Judge Wilkin, it's interesting, from one of the articles online I read, she was most curious as a judge about the inclusion of unknown future athletes. I chuckled. She talked about what about a 10-year-old today playing kickball on the asphalt? How will he? She was concerned that athlete, say in 2031, I don't even know if I'll live that long, would have no say in the terms that got approved before he became an athlete. To which I say, these settlements of issues, that it's a baseline you establish, and you say, all right, no more plaintiffs can come or classes can come forward and claim that they were cheated from something 20 years ago. At some point, you got to start anew. And it's just like if you talk to Terry Bradshaw and all these guys that played, Joe Namath that played NFL back when, they made what we would consider a pittance now, didn't they, Rob?
Oh, yeah. Go back and look at your old trading cards when you were a kid. They had a job. They worked at a bank. They were real estate. They sold real estate. They could have been a bartender, any number of things. But look,
Namath probably made more money wearing pantyhose in a shave cream ad or whatever that ad was for.
Remember, if you go back to Mickey Mantle when he made the $100,000 deal, that was ginormous. That was a big deal. But Doug, the fans all over America, we're taking out the spring games, one school after another. And who started it? Matt Rule at Nebraska, Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal. You go back in the 70s, college football was a regional game. You could only be on TV 5 times in a 2-year period. And then in the 80s, 1984, Chuck Ninus, the CFA, Georgia, Oklahoma, the decision. All the games are on TV. What did we hear? Nobody will go to the games. They're all on TV. Since then, you name me a stadium that hadn't expanded 2 or 3 times.
And, if let's suppose for grins right now that Coach Saban, or pick your favorite candidate, is named commissioner of college football, and they secede from the NCAA union, which I think is inevitable. And I actually think that's going to be inside of 2 or 3 years, not beyond that. All the pressure points are there. But one of my worries is, at that point, if I'm truly being a commissioner trying to save and give a lasting future to all of college football programs that are Division I, let's just start there. Then, even though I've cut my teeth in the SEC and all of Saban's GOAT status was achieved in the toughest conference in football of all, the SEC, well, suddenly I have a duty, if I'm fair, I have a duty to try to make, all this power move for the SEC and Big Ten. That's going to have a repercussion on the ACC, Big 12, and the conferences that can play some good football any given year. So there's a lot to consider to protect the brand if we want it to be a national brand, not just a Midwest and Deep South brand. We got Jack on.
Yeah, we got Jack Turner in here, and we'll bring in our barrister. Jack, you got to love this guy. Pulls over in traffic. Safety first.
What
Jack.
a guy. What a guy. Because it's billable hours, Rob.
That's right. Jack, as David Brenner would often say on The Tonight Show when he was on there on Thursdays with Johnny Carson, he'd go, shameless plug, I'll be at the Sands Hotel tonight, tomorrow. Give us the name of your law firm. And I will say you are an authority on antitrust law. And we'll be eating lunch later today at Waffle Shop at 11:27 a.m. Central. But give the name of your firm, and then we wanted to get your thoughts on the House settlement, what's going on, and this is the effect it could have on not just the SEC but college sports as a whole from a lawyer.
Well, the firm is Quinteros, Prieto, Wood, and Boyer, Miami firm. We're all over the country though, and I'm with the Memphis office. As far as the House settlement goes, now I believe we're still waiting on final approval from the judge.
Yes.
The lawyers, the parties can agree to something, but ultimately a judge has to prove it. When I was a baby lawyer, a judge reminded me of that in no uncertain terms when I thought we'd agreed to a continuance, but he hadn't.
Yeah. Sure.
But as far as this one goes, it's a settlement of an antitrust suit brought against the NCAA and the major conferences. For current athletes, to get NIL money directly from the schools. The original NIL arrangement, they couldn't get it from the schools. They could get it from sponsors, whoever was paying for their name, image, likeness.
Yeah.
Now the schools themselves will be paying it. Technically, the conferences will too, but that's really money that would have gone to the schools. So this is really the schools will just be paying that out of their indirectly through reduced revenue sharing, stuff that came in from the bowl games, tournaments, college playoff, all that. And then, of course, the TV rights, the big thing.
Okay, so, Doug, I didn't know that, what he just said. So let's say $50 million was given out by the SEC last year, and we're hearing stuff that with Texas and Oklahoma in, soon it will be 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Is that incrementally is there going to be a COLA, cost of living adjustment for that going forward?
For how much the NIL money is?
Yeah, doesn't it have to increase a little bit each year?
I don't think it has to. I mean, I think that's I
think that's
have not read the settlements. I don't know if that's addressed in there, but I don't know of any reason there would be a guaranteed step up every year because we could go through a period of deflation. People's tastes and preferences change. There was a time when boxing and horse racing were the most popular sports in the country, and they don't produce the revenue relative to everything else they used to. So there may be a time when TV revenue is down. People move on to something else.
Yeah,
Jack, Jack, if you had, thanks for coming on. This is awesome. If you had your druthers, and we all understand that the glacial pace of legislative action and matters like this, but is there any, even if it takes 5 years or more, is there any hope of Congress swooping in with a magic antitrust exemption like I believe MLB has?
If I had my brothers, we still have
this?
the Big Eight in the Southwest Conference, and the Oklahoma-Nebraska winner be playing in the Orange Bowl every year. But
I understand.
As far as Congress stepping in, theoretically they could. I think that's. Am I paused?
You're good.
Theoretically,
You're good.
they could. I think that is highly unlikely, though. I just think Congress does not want to mess with this football if they can leave it in the court's laps.
So we have to live with the mess that Rob likes to say, and he's right. It's the question that worries me is how long will the free market? The free market will sort this out, but a lot of damage can get done during that interim period.
Yeah, he'll reboot. But Doug, man, you've really touched on something though. Athletic directors trying to make that hard sell if they don't have it. I mean, but Jack just pointed something I didn't really think about. I've been under the assumption that athletic directors, university presidents are going to have to search around and go tell their controllers, their CFOs, and say, go find me $21.5 million. Therefore, how many sports are we going to cut? And, you mentioned horse racing and boxing being the most popular sports. They were such clean sports run by such morally clean people. I'm surprised that happened. Jack, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Sorry, you cut out at the end of that.
I was just talking.
Horse racing,
I was shocked.
And then you cut out.
Yeah, and I was shocked that those sports failed because they were such clean, healthy, wholesome sports run by good, honest people.
Well, as far as sports being cut,
that's
another interesting question. Yeah, that's another interesting question because there's potentially a Title IX issue. Title IX is the federal law that says that money on college sports has to be spent in proportion to the participation interest between men and women. Now, the Trump administration, the Department of Education, has issued a guidance saying that NIL money does not have to be calculated in your Title IX spending. That will probably be the way it works for the next 3 or 4 years, unless the courts decide otherwise, and somebody will have to bring another lawsuit because that's not really covered in House, as I understand it. But when you get a Democratic administration down the road, they may say, no, you do have to calculate that. And that would certainly result in some men's non-revenue sports being on the chopping block.
Jack, what do you think was magical, if anything, about the back settlement from 2016 to 2024, that calculation of, we're going to have to go back and give Jarrett Stidham, Auburn people are, Jarrett Stidham and Kerryon Johnson some money for that 2017 season. Explain that to us.
Yeah, I saw that, and I don't know the details, but I would suspect that has to do with the statute of limitations window.
It is.
When the suit could have been brought. Anything before that is not going to be covered by it.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and I like Gator George. I love this guy. He gets up in Portland, Oregon. Okay, he's got a brother that went to Auburn. He's a Gator. Would Jack be willing to serve as administrator over college sports and fix this mess? And Jack, your famous quote you gave me, we talk every day, but you said, I'm against anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. So you're a hopeless romantic, which is why we love having you on the show.
Jack would be one of Commissioner Nick Saban's first hires as in-house antitrust counsel for college football.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. His father, rest his soul, I love that man. The biggest Alabama fan I knew more about history in the South, in the Southeastern Conference. Your dad would have been an awesome commissioner. He would have ruled like that judge in no uncertain terms. It could be 9. It would have been incredible. But all right, Jack, I know you got to get going. But and Doug, you're way better on these questions on this because of your job away from here. You understand all this technical minutia. So take the last question. And Jack, I'll see you at 11:27 a.m. Central at the Waffle Shop.
Well, Jack, briefly,
see you there.
We're making you king for a day before you buckle up and drive safely. And the next few steps, assuming Judge Wilkin with minor tweaking approves the House settlement, what are some of the next steps that the powers that be of college football is realistically that they can make to try to get more competitive level playing field, which seems to be the biggest threat when programs are going out and they're buying a roster? It's not NIL, it's pay for play. And that was not within the scope of what SCOTUS ruled on, but here we are. What would you do next if you're in the power base?
if I'm in the power base, I probably beg and plead with Congress to step in at that point, because right now with antitrust, existing antitrust law being the driving factor, the courts are going to say that any attempt to limit it among the group is basically constitutes, creating a cartel and price fixing. Now, Congress can change that, though. Congress has the authority, if they choose to exercise it, and that's the big if, to impose a little sanity, because, there's the Major League Baseball has its antitrust exemption. Congress can create exemptions in antitrust law, and they can certainly do it here and say that the NCAA or the conferences or some other body that the major conferences choose to create, because we've been heading in that direction for a while, has a right to impose certain limitations on it if they want to do it.
Yeah. And one other question.
The problem they've got is politically, you're dealing with a bunch of young men who are kind of sympathetic. Their argument is, we're making all these millions for everybody else. Why shouldn't we get our fair share of the pie? And the counter argument is, yeah, we want you to, but if we don't have some regulation on this, the whole thing is going to collapse. And you have a bunch of schools just have to get out of football because they can't afford to be competitive.
Yeah, and one more question before you go, Gator George. This is a good one. It's just kind of like, wow, maybe he's a lawyer. I don't know. Should all the gambling consortiums, DraftKings and all this, and syndicates have to kick something back to the players that enrich them? I mean, without the players, nobody would bet on their propositions. That might be the question of the day. I mean, that's damn. Gator George, what are you drinking out there in Portland, man? This guy's very smart.
He's still on a high from March Madness.
Yes, he's still. And I'm waiting, Jack, for somebody to call Walter Clayton Jr. Walter Cronkite. But the guy, talk about that, and then we'll let you go.
I don't see that going anywhere. That's like saying the newspapers should have to share their revenue with the players because they wouldn't have sports pages.
That's the point.
Gambling is a separate operation. Of course, everybody involved in sports hates it with a passion. But no, I don't think there would be any legal basis for saying that they have to kick in some of what they get to the players.
Amateurism is dead, brother. Amateurism is dead.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what's crazy. But we still got the games to talk about. Jack, thank you so much. You're an incredible man and an even better attorney. The barrister of sidelines. Thanks.
Rob,
I
thanks,
guess,
Jack.
you better get ready to write a check too, because you're covering these guys too. You're making money off of college athletes, Rob.
That's right. Yeah. All right. I'll give it a shot. Thank you. Be careful.
Jack
Safety
Turner
first.
from the law firm of Dewey, Screwham, and Howe.
I love it, man.
He's a competent barrister, that's for sure. All of this begs a question, many questions, but I've been thinking about, and just in the culture that I know the best is Auburn, because I've spent so much time deep inside that over many years. Mm-hmm. But I think it's awfully similar to any big program in the SEC, especially those that have tasted championships. But, is there a world in which let's just take football for now, the football team are not students. They're not required to have a 2.5 GPA in order to go play, as if that's been enforced anytime recently. And they're not really interact. There might be guardrails on how exactly they can interact with the student body at large. They're just hired gun football players. And you know what? I don't hate them for that any more than I would hate a kid that wants to go learn how to be a high-end body repair guy. You know what those guys make in body shops? Rob?
A lot.
Six figures, brother.
Oh, easily.
150, 200,000 if they're really good at their craft. So I'm not mad at anybody for, creating a means to create an income stream and enjoy life in America. But I have serious questions about when they suddenly take Dylan Cardwell in basketball, how beloved he became among the student body, what a leader he was, a role model spiritually and academically for so many kids. And if that goes away, that's another impact that sort of detaches fans from the what all adds up to their passion to want to be there on game day. Because now, if it's just a football game, I like my 70-inch flat screen in a man cave, Rob, with temperature control, and you walk 3 paces and you can get a cold beer of your choice. I'll still go to game day, but I think there's so many impacts going on that if I'm an AD like John, you quoted, I would be asking serious questions about what we modify to have a chance to stay in the game of football.
Yeah, and I was texting with someone from ESPN last night about coming on today, and he couldn't do it today, but possibly next week. Look for Disneyland likely to close their doors. Disney is hemorrhaging. ESPN, that announcement from Saturday Down South last week, that game day is going to become an in-studio production. As Buddy said on this show, he said, well, what the hell are they there for?
Gone.
And Buddy made great point. ESPN, we love Paul Feinbaum. You know what? He's moving back to Birmingham. And I'm sure he's going to do a studio from Birmingham or something so he can still do SEC Network, obviously. But Paul cut his teeth in Birmingham. He's a Memphis native, but he knows the South, and that's where he's been born and raised, and he understands the dynamics like none of those national guys really do. Reese does because he's from Hamilton, Alabama, and he went to Tuscaloosa to school. But, guys, there's change that is happening, but I still want to go to the games. I love being at the game. But what I think's happened is look at the crowds outside the stadium. All right? Look at those crowds. And Landers Ford, hopefully Brad Bellamy will be on in just a moment. But bottom line, the crowds outside the stadiums, you have 90 to 100,000 people in a lot of these SEC stadiums, but you have 50 or 60,000 outside of the stadium. So those are the guys that are saying, okay, I want to watch my 72-inch or 84-inch flat screen, get cold beers out of my cooler, my freezer, my Yeti full of ice. I like them ice cold. But you still want to be at the games. That's what that is, okay? And Buddy, your comment the other day, we lost Frank. It's just been a wild day. It's technology, but Buddy, I'm trying to quote you. Mother Teresa said we can't all do everything, but we can all do something. You said ESPN's gotten so big that they're trying to cover everything, but they're not really covering much of anything like they should be. Buddy Martin, what say you?
Morning, Rob. Good morning, Doug. How you doing?
Congrats to the Gators, buddy.
Yeah, that's, I try not to be too flashy with Gator stuff today. But
right.
It's the time right now that's really quite interesting going on, and no one outside of Gator Nation would probably appreciate and understand it exactly, but they get an idea. It's not just about winning the Natty. That's great, but there's other things at play here. There's a deep welling up of emotions I've never experienced. And I've been talking to a lot of veteran Gator people, players, coaches, what have you. And this was like no other national championship. My friend Freddie Weeby, who's Spurrier's partner in the restaurant, said he's been to all 6 natties, 3 in basketball, 3 in football, and yes, Florida's the only school who's ever done that. Sorry, not bragging. It's just a fact. And he said this one was different than all of them. I have had people openly crying on my show the last couple of days. The great Chris Doring, football player, was there you might have heard about this. He was at the game with his son, with some of his former teammates. And sitting there after the game, he welled up and started crying because it just, we don't know why this particular national championship has resonated deep within the souls of Gator fans in a way that has never happened before. So I know outside the circle, people say, big whoop, who cares? But inside, there are people who know and care. It's been an amazing experience. And now on Saturday, they'll try to flip the switch a little bit, Doug. They're going to have we can't see it on TV because they don't broadcast this stuff, but I won't be there. So I guess I have to hear about it. They had this celebration for the basketball team now on Saturday, and then the Orange and Blue game to follow after. Gentlemen, it's going to be like Woodstock. There's going to be a lot of love going on right there. And what a great day it is for the Gators. Now, I would hope that the SEC brethren, while they might be a tad jealous and maybe had a little bit of Florida overload, would appreciate that if they were LSU or what this means. And I hate to over dramatize it, but it's almost like a spiritual quality to it.
Yeah,
It's really
sure.
cleansed the soul. And it's not a matter of people talking about, I don't need Paul Finebaum to tell me the Gator basketball is good. He didn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And if you think about why, well, I'm not going to get petty. Isn't Paul moving back to Alabama?
yeah,
He is.
going back to Birmingham.
Yeah. And Paul Bun's a good friend of mine and been a good friend of the show. He would not, for whatever reason, he would not validate Florida. He would not. And I've talked about it. Rob, you've heard me ad nauseum on this show. Doug, maybe you too. That when you go into a half an hour show, ESPN, and you have Woody Pages from his final shows, my friend, Tennessee graduate, and 3 other young people that I don't know, and they talk for 1 hour about the teams that could win the SEC, could win the national championship. And they mentioned Tennessee, what he was all about Tennessee. They mentioned Alabama. They mentioned Auburn. Auburn was the best team. Duke was by far the best team and had the greatest player of all time. That's what they said. I listened to it, I gagged. I thought, wouldn't Florida be worth just a little tiny mention in there? And Doug, I know you have, Rob. So I'm not going to sound like a bitter or whatever, but it just goes to show you, Rob, what you said. Well, he said, ESPN covers everything and covers nothing.
Go ahead, Doug.
My buddy may have locked up. Buddy, I think I know, and there's a parallel in many ways with the Auburn fan base. I think I know why there's this huge welling up of emotion in Gator Nation. And I think, and I'm probably not exact, but I bet it's in the ballpark. It's born of suffering when a proud program that has tasted 2 championships under Billy Donovan, under Spurrier, under Urban Meyer. Then I don't like the word spoiling because the point is to try to win championships. But then you go through a long period of a drought of suffering, and there's a lot of hunger, I'm sure, with Gators in the football side of things, which is looking up for sure after last year. That I think Napier's going to be just fine. But that through that desert experience, once you finally claim the championship hardware, there's something different about it. That emotion finally pours out, and Todd Golden's going to be a good one, and he's got a long runway for you guys. That's for sure. Congratulations.
Yeah. And buddy, that along the line, what Doug's saying, you watch national and we all know people, and Doug, we've had them on the show, the national guys. And you were a national guy, buddy. I mean, you used to live in New York. You lived in Denver you were the Denver Post sports editor. I mean, that's a big ass deal for like 17 years. And I know people now that when I talk to them from Denver, because some of the companies that I've worked with, their service centers are in Denver. And they're like, oh God, Buddy Martin. I mean, and what's cool, I think, is that you're still writing, and you should write until you're 100. I mean, we're not reading enough, Doug. Doug is a great writer, and he uses terms. No, you're really and Buddy. But when I talk with Buddy, I really want to get to where I'm writing a column every week. But with Buddy, it's like
I'll believe it when I see it, Rob. I know.
I got to be better. But it's like Buddy's attitude is like, Doug, do it, but do it right. What we're seeing now is a lot of stuff thrown out there. And I'm sorry, but I still, when I text you, I will indent 5 spaces to the right. I look at punctuation, grammar. I had a guy named Jack Sims at Auburn that taught me my freshman year.
I knew Jack very well. He was a skywriter. I knew all about that.
But if you misspelled a word, you failed the whole test.
Yeah.
Buddy, I couldn't help but think sometimes people I've talked to that are associated with programs that, if you just look at March Madness, that have cut the nets down. I mean, they've got to be good to get there. But almost all of them are humble enough to say, yeah, but you know what? There's a smidge of luck involved. And looking back, Florida was a flat out a matchup problem for Bruce Pearl and this historically great Auburn team all year long. I looked at this KenPom on both Florida and Auburn, buddy. This is incredible. Florida and Auburn would have the best KenPom justified power ratings as teams going since 2002. And so Auburn was unlucky that the matchup problem all year long spanked Auburn in Neville Arena regular season, and then it was a competitive game in the Final Four. But what Auburn needed, if Lady Luck had smiled, was Texas Tech to find a way to close that deal against Florida, and you just dodge having to play a matchup problem. Now, could Bruce Pearl have beaten Texas Tech? We'll never know. But Gators. If I'm a Gator, I'm not going to call any of it luck. But people that are more objective analysts would say, yeah, absolutely. We stayed healthy. We got matchups we could deal with, and we were able to make shots down the stretch, even though we were coming from behind. To come from behind against a defensive juggernaut like Houston, man, that's something to really be proud of for sure.
You're right. And if I just may, and I'm sorry to the fans who think, please, buddy, don't turn this into a Florida Gators show. I'm not. I'm just trying to.
I don't mind it at all.
Buddy, it's the top story.
I just want to say two things. Number one, Bruce Pearl had a fabulous year. Auburn had a fabulous year. Part of the problem is that people like Feinbaum couldn't get their head out of the clouds because it was Auburn and Alabama. And he's moving back to Alabama, and he won't say it, but there's some deep seeds. And I get it. We all have them. We all have our biases in there. And so he couldn't bring himself to say, well, yeah, Florida's hurt the game. But the key is, and I'm deal again, that was kind of how they dealt with it on see. Well, they're just lucky. And okay, let me just point out two very key important parts. In the end of the game, which was it happened so fast, I didn't even know what had happened, nor did Gators, that as the clock was ticking down, when the greatest player the Florida's ever had in basketball, an offensive player who scored only 11 points, didn't have a bucket until there was 8 minutes to go in the game. Yeah, stepped up to deny the shooter, the kid from Tampa, the 3-point shot, got the hand up in the right place. And guys, this, it's so easy to foul the 3-point shooter. So easy. Yeah. If you touch him there, you're dead. Yeah. You're dead.
Some of your dowdy.
But but here's the thing. He said he was coached to do this, taught many times, step to the side. That wasn't luck. He was coached to do that.
That was great. Yeah.
Then when the ball goes on the floor, and I've said this, what's Houston known for? They're known for diving for balls. They even have a drill. They talk to all this is what we do. We go after loose balls. We do drills on so and so and so forth. And so when the guy comes down, he can't allow himself to be holding the ball, lets it go. It goes on the floor, loose ball, the biggest loose ball in the history of Florida basketball. Who got the ball?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Houston players win and lose games, and we try to be gracious and not rub it in the face of the player who will be in that, March sadness. Yeah. There's March Madness. He should have faked, dribbled, and then had a clean look to get the shot off at the very end.
I agree with you, and it wasn't luck; it was preparation, and I think it's a lesson learned. Brad Bellamy, general manager, Landers Ford. I'm looking forward to going down to the Landers Center tonight to hear my man Sturgill Simpson. I am jacked up. I'm excited. Tell them what's going on out at Landers. We drove by there yesterday on the way out to Hewlett and Dunn. Old Glory is flying proudly at the dealership at Poplar and Houston Levy. I love it.
That's right, Rob. That's right, man. It's been a beautiful week this week. So Old Glory's definitely been flying. Had the perfect amount of wind, so it just looks so pretty up there on this flagpole, 50 feet high above the sky. Man, we got great programs. At this point, if anybody watched the NCAA tournament Final Four, they heard all about the Ford Built for America campaign, and we got employee price for everyone. At Landers, we're not only giving employee price, we're beating employee price. So Expeditions, we got Expedition 2024's employee price plus $5,000 off. So trying to do everything we can to close out those 24s. We got 2 25s still in stock of the Expeditions. We're absolutely gorgeous. Rob, your wife would love it. So it's time for one of you guys to get an upgrade. One of you.
Hey, it's us. We need to get one pimped out for SEC Sidelines, and so we can drive it around to the SEC games. That big old Expedition. Come on now. Let's get that going, Brad.
Hey, Rob, you buy it, I'll wrap it. All right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you what, it's exciting because you go out there. I drove by yesterday. It's where Collierville meets Memphis. It's a big lot, and y'all's name is all over the place. And I'll tell you one thing. The motto is great. If you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much. And Brad, I love the stories of y'all working with people when they come in, because there's a lot of anxiety when they go buy a truck. Just quickly tell us, and I know you got a question for Buddy or Doug. Quickly tell us what the process is like when they walk in and they ask for Brad Bellamy and say, "Hey, I want to get a new truck or car or SUV."
Absolutely. No, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I mean, I want to try to see what their needs are, see where we can meet them, and then, hand them off to a salesperson who'll do an excellent job explaining the features and benefits and making sure that they find the vehicle that's right for them. We don't have a high pressure environment. With the current programs out there, it's really just about trying to pick what the customer, best fits their needs, whether it's something they're going to take off road, whether it's something they're most concerned about their budget, and it's not just new cars. We got great deals on used cars too, and trying to help people get financing and want to just be able to take care of the needs of individuals. People don't like to be sold things, but everybody likes to buy things. And so if we let them lead the way, then they'll have a great experience. So that's our goal here. We won President's Award, which is the highest honor at Ford last year. And we're super excited about just how great that customer experience continues to be. So, Rob, my big thing with the NCAA tournament is, why do they have to start the championship game so stinking late? I mean, everything else we've moved up. You put it on a Monday night and then you start. I mean, Buddy, I know Florida was in the game, but were you nodding off a little bit at any point? Or is your sleep
I don't think so.
He was had 3 Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, but I felt your pain a long time. Try being in the newspaper business, which I was a million years ago. On your own deadline, every minute counts, and you're hoping for an afternoon game. They say tonight's game will start at 10:36. It's incredible. But you know what? Incredible. I made up a word. It's incredible because it's where ESPN and TV says and CBS says we're going to go there, whether you like it or not. It's not for you. It's not for you fans. It's for us. It's for the West Coast. It's for our sponsors. And we have to live with it. We're like, the old term redheaded stepchild. That's who we are. And the media has no say. And I feel your pain, Brad, and guys starting to feel it for sure. And I wish somebody like Doug, who's got some pull, would do something about it.
Hey, Brad, y'all are no worse y'all have recovered from the flooding. I was weeping gently at the sight of Buffalo Trace Distillery underwater. Are y'all good on the flooding, Brad?
Man, we're good. We had a few different employees that had some different things happen at their house in terms of some, extra water that they weren't expecting that joined them on Saturday evening. I felt bad for our local CBS affiliate here in Memphis because I guess there's some mandate if they have to be on air if there's warnings and so they were the sound for the entire first game of the Final Four, which it was understanding. One of our owners has a place in Taylor, and they were coming through Taylor, and he was wanting to watch the game, but also get an update. So, I mean, in those situations, guys, and there's only so much they can do, but it is tough when there's like these calls, especially at the end of the game, and you have no idea what they're talking about or what they're debating. All you hear is about the straight line winds that are now hitting Taylor, Mississippi, and you need to get your safe space. You need to get your safe space. I mean, there should have been some drinking games for all those folks in the Memphis area during that first game, because we could have had some pretty good drinking bingo or something going on. Maybe celebrate some of that Buffalo Trace you might not be able to get from those bottom level barrels.
Brad, I want to use some sleight of hand to get Buddy off of talking basketball, because it's painful. It's still painful. I'm kidding, Buddy. I don't blame you. But tell us about Ty Simpson. Are there high hopes for this QB who's the runaway favorite, it looks like, in spring in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way that everything ended with, the previous era, I think everybody's ready for a change and ready to see what we can do. I mean, that Michigan game was about as painful as the Oklahoma game, and it just seemed like big moments didn't turn out to be very well for last year's team. And I mean, and Ty Simpson's a West Tennessee kid too, so
Martin,
he
can he make all the throws, you think?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, the thing with
we have to see some football. I get it.
I mean, how many times have we also seen a situation? I mean, and I don't know how it's going to be with Kalen, but I mean, with Saban, where the guy in spring practice that was a starting quarterback, he played about 2 drives, and then it's like he's out, and then the next thing you know, I mean, he's transferred somewhere else. So
The thing about Jalen is so hard that I think he might catch on the right NFL team, but it'll be a process of getting him there. And it's kind of what Jalen Hurts has been through a little bit. It's gone pretty well for the Eagles. But if I'm the coach at Alabama, man, it's just so hard to take Milroe off the field with what an electric runner he is. And he's not a bad passer. He just had some bad moments. And that's going to happen when you go against these savages on the defensive line in the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, the thing with Jalen Milroe and Buddy, everybody was on this panel, 12 for 185 against LSU last year. 12 carries. He rushed for 185 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. You just can't. I mean, you got to love that. Buddy, you watched John Elway's career when you were in Denver writing. He took so many hits. I heard a quote from him one time. He said, "It takes me 30 minutes to get loose enough to get out of bed some mornings. I'm so beat up." But you've watched the evolution of football, Buddy, a lot over the years. And you talk about these dual threat quarterbacks and all. You got one at Florida, DJ Lagway, who can scooter. But and along the line of what Brad's saying, and Doug's right, we got to see some football. Can he make all the throws? And by the way, Ty Simpson from Martin, Tennessee, Westview High School, his dad's in his 19th year there as the head football coach at UT Martin, but he's got a little brother who's pretty damn good as well. But, Buddy, talk about the quarterback position.
Well, I will, but I got to say this. I can't let Brad get out of here without me mentioning this. At least it's still basketball season here, okay? And here's the news. And, of course, the celebration will take place for basketball on Saturday prior to the Orange Blue game. Then we'll have the Orange Blue game, which we won't see on TV. But here's the bad news. Florida apparently has a commitment from this kid from Princeton, Xavier Lee, who's a world-class point guard. Unbelievable. He was a high school teammate of Tommy Hoff. This guy is the bomb. 6'4", average 16.9 at Princeton. 6.1 the runs RPG last season. The Tigers, a massive get for the champions. This is big. This kid here, you put him in now, what they got coming back, Denzel Aberdeen, particularly at the guard position. Guess what? They might have had those 3 senior guards they had, but they got some really great players, and they got a heck of a coach. So, yeah, I'm with you on that, Brad. I'm anxious to see the upgrades in football as well, but I got to let this afterglow last just a couple of more days.
Hey, well, fans are still holding on to 1998 national championship in football, man. You hold on to it long as you need to. But hey, it's the first time me and a third of the country, I actually got the national champion right. I actually had the national championship game right, which I don't know if I've ever done that, to be honest with you. But when it's all 4 one seeds making the Final Four and you decide to go chalk for the first time in a long time, it works out.
Good for you.
Congratulations to the Florida Gators. I mean, talk about, if you would have known in the summertime with all the turmoil you had in your football team, with the unknowns of basketball, that your football team would have had a turnaround and actually got to the point where it got to by the end of the year. Instead of saying fire Billy Napier, it's like 1 more year and we'll see what happens. And then you guys win the national championship in basketball, which I don't think there was any expectation that they would get to that level this year. No. But the way that they closed out the season was just incredible and celebrate it, man. I think we're all jealous of a national championship. I don't know when any of my teams are going to get one anytime soon, except for women's gymnastics. So
yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way, too. And incidentally, I just got to say, the way Walter Clayton has handled this, did you guys see the end of the game when Clayton came over to console?
Oh, he consoled the guy.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was impressive.
Who are you thinking of?
Yeah.
Most 20 years old are thinking of themselves. He's over there consoling the guy who didn't get the shot off. Yeah. And what's his first words out of his mouth? I want to see my mama. That's his first word. I want to see my mama.
Yeah.
I know it's corny and all that.
No, it's not.
Like to think your kids are a cut above. How many stars did he have, by the way? 0. No stars. That's the great thing, Brad. This was a true team, 10 deep, with nobody had any star, but one guy with 4, rest number 3 or 0 stars. This is what Rob has been wanting, and what we all been wanting about our sports teams. Give us a team.
Yeah.
Loves the school.
Players we get to know for a couple of years, for heaven's sake.
Buddy, guys, I don't know if y'all heard this. Last year, Buddy said something. It was both funny and sad. A Florida football coach announced he was leaving, and Buddy goes, I would say it was great knowing you, but I never met you. I mean, because they're so restricted. Buddy, I'm going to come up with a bunch of Buddyisms and put them on a T-shirt because but you said that, and it's like, Brad and Doug, we all know this, and Brendan's watched this. We don't know these people like we used to, but we saw a team. And if I'm an NFL executive, I will draft Walter Clayton Jr.
Well, NBA, you mean he's gone up in the draft now. They've been talking about him. I don't believe this, possibly being a lottery pick. Wow, that'd be amazing.
Well, when you're the most valuable player, and Brad, they made us pick March 16th, Kevin Skarbinski, spur of the moment that night. Your Final Four, I had Michigan State, Florida, Alabama, Houston. I had Florida playing Houston, Florida cutting down the nets. So 2 peas in a pod. They're two good ciphering brains right there. But Doug, your take on this, and we'll wrap it up here in a second, but your take on what all these guys have said, I think is we just love the game, the teams. We love what Walter Clayton, that sportsmanship after the game, going over there and consoling that guy because he knows it could have been him just as easily.
Yeah, their fans are sentimental, sometimes sappy in a good way.
Yeah.
And if this thing becomes sterile and sanitized and it's all about, paying 7 figures to a high school senior to sign with you, he better turn out to be good or fans will turn on him.
Yeah.
And I hope that and that's kind of how I see NBA too often. They don't play defense until the playoff comes around, right? At least it looks that way.
To the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And so I think the product of college football, and God knows basketball, is just fine. Yeah. But as we talked about with a barrister, Jack Turner, constitutional attorney, or antitrust attorney, there's some messes that need cleaning up for it to be a fairly level competitive playing field. And then, that's going to take a few years, it looks like to me.
Well, I definitely think it is. And, fear doesn't stop death. It just stops life. So we got to persevere through this and figure this out. And we will. But I cannot say enough, man. This has been an awesome show. Brad Bellamy, I know you got your sales call coming up at Landers Ford, but awesome having y'all as a sponsor. And again, Doug Dean, we had Frank Duffy. We lost him somewhere. He's somewhere between 2.
He's worried about his winning thoroughbred.
Yeah, he's headed to Hot Springs today, Brad.
Oh, is Nip in the bud running again?
Yes. Yes.
Download Twin Spires and get something going on him and see if I can.
What a wholesome family sport, horse racing and boxing. I just love it.
Rob, guys, y'all have a great weekend.
All right, everybody, thank y'all. Thank you, Brad. Go ahead.
I was going to say, really fun news story that came out last week. I had an old manager at Ford Motor Company that over the years, he wrote down every phrase. You're talking about buddyisms. He wrote down every phrase that somebody said incorrectly for about 10 or 12 years and had these huge boards. There's an NBC News article video that came out last week. It was awesome. Love you guys. Love the show. Love being with you. Brenden, let's get you a car. And have a great weekend, guys. Come see us at Landers.
And write this down. Ready?
Yeah.
Well, we lost him. The Gator Boys. Stay hot, Gator Boys. That's the slogan that came from the 2006 and 7 team, which is adopted by this team. And that's their mantra. Stay hot, Gator Boys. They're passing the torch to Billy Napier on Saturday. Let's see some heat from Billy.
No, I agree with that. History, traditions, and heroes. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, buddy. And Brenden, let me say something about our sponsors. Another one of them, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company out in Collierville on the historic square. Look, a lot of reasons to go out to Collierville on the square. The music festivals and all coming up. I was in Hewlett and Dunn yesterday. Unbelievable stuff. They've got Barber computer bags, Filson computer bags, boots, Filson duck heads, man, all the polos. The spring fashions are in, men's and women's and kids. Great looking boots and bags and luggage. All of it Hewlett and Dunn open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Hey, look, man, awesome show. It was a wild one. We were all over the place today, but most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and do something great for somebody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday morning with Coach Ellis Johnson. We're going to break down spring football.